The Azabu Crest Residence's showroom sparkled against the Tokyo sunset, a fortress of wealth where first impressions could shatter dreams.
Oh, another visitor. Let me guess, you're just browsing, right?
Kosuke walked in, his olive coat and rolled blueprint making him an outsider here.
Units start at 600 million yen. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable in Saitama.
I'd like to see the penthouse. The one on the 47th floor.
From the side, junior assistant Mana placed a cup of warm tea near his elbow, a silent gesture of respect.
Every tower you see, I designed them. Here's my stamp.
A fake stamp? Security is one call away if you want to play games.
Go ahead, call them. I'll wait.
Outside, the 3 towers he designed stood like silent witnesses, their lights flickering on one by one. The blueprint told the truth, but inside that showroom, truth still had to fight for its life.
You think a printed paper and a calm voice will fool me? Security will toss you out in 2 minutes?
I have a 1 o'clock meeting with Sato-san, the developer of this entire project. He'll confirm my identity.
Sato? He's the head of the entire Crest development. Why would he meet with this shabby street rat? If Sato-sama really comes, my heart might burst. This man could be the real architect.
That 3rd tower with the curved crown, I finalized the stress calculations at 3 a.m. the night my father died.
Her perfectly manicured nail hovered over the call button. Something in his quiet grief made her pause.
Risa-senpai, shall I call the head office? They may have a file on his architectural license. Stay out of this! I've handled 100 posers. This one is no different.
7 minutes to 1. He's never late. And then this woman will taste what a mistake really is.
The wall clock ticked toward 1. Outside, the 3 towers stood ready to reclaim their creator. At exactly 1 o'clock, the glass doors slid open for a man in a navy suit. Sato, the developer whose signature funded every tower in sight.
Sensei, forgive my lateness. The elevator held me hostage. It is an honor to finally meet you in person.
Sensei? This shabby man is the legendary Kosuke Sensei? My career is finished.
Risa, why do you stand there frozen? Why is Sensei unserved? And why does he look like he's been insulted?
I was admiring the view. Every tower outside carries my stamp. Your agent kindly suggested I relocate to Saitama.
He's the real architect. Risa-senpai humiliated him in front of everyone. What will Sato-sama do to her?
Sensei, I am mortified beyond words. That woman will answer for this gross insult. Please, let me make amends.
Risa's fingers went numb. Her phone slipped, bouncing once on the marble before the screen shattered into a web of shame. Kosuke walked out into the Roppongi evening, the blueprint tube steady under his arm. He never looked back. Sato turned to Risa, his voice dropping to a blade's cold edge. The real reckoning hadn't even started. Risa's desperate calls chased Kosuke across the city, but he never picked up. By evening, her rage had nowhere to land except on the one who offered him tea.
Did you enjoy your little act of kindness, Mana? You made me look like a fool in front of Sato-sama.
The 2-hour commute home had never felt so long. The train carried her away from the towers she helped sell, toward the life no client ever saw.
4 months since the divorce. 2 jobs, 1 cramped apartment, and now a boss who wants me gone.
The train rattled through the suburbs, each station peeling away the city's glitter until only tired houses remained. At the daycare, Yuki's face lit up the moment she saw her mother. Mana scooped her up, inhaling the scent of crayons and baby shampoo.
Mama, did you have a good day?
Mana kissed her daughter's forehead and said nothing about the showroom. Some burdens were not for 5-year-olds. Under the street lamps, hand in hand, they walked the dark road to their small apartment. The towers Mana sold each day seemed like another planet.
If only I could give her more than this.
A few days later, at a dusty suburban station, Kosuke spotted a familiar ponytail wrestling a heavy grocery bag while keeping a child close.
Mana-san, let me help you with that.
Kosuke-san, you don't have to.
He took the bag without ceremony, and they fell into step. Yuki kept peeking up at the stranger who carried their dinner.
Thank you. I usually manage alone, but today Risa-senpai gave me a mountain of filing. I missed the early train.
Risa is bleeding onto her subordinates, and this woman endures it every day, yet still found room to offer tea to a stranger.
They stopped at a small park, on a bench under a cherry tree. Yuki drew in the dirt while the adults spoke quietly.
It's just me and Yuki. Her father left before she turned 2. I worked 2 jobs to keep this life.
That's an immense burden. Yet at the showroom, you were the only one who showed me any decency.
He watched them walk the last block home, the girls skipping ahead. Something unnameable had shifted. He knew he wouldn't forget this pair. Mana had once believed in forever. Then the man who promised it left their apartment with a single suitcase while their daughter cried. She took the overnight shift at a convenience store, learning to smile on no sleep, the same smile that would one day offer tea to a scruffy architect. When the showroom hired her, she thought she'd finally grab the ladder. Instead, she found Risa waiting at every rung, ready to shove her down. Kosuke replayed the memory, Mana's quiet tea while Risa's venom filled the air. That woman had endured contempt, yet still reached out to a stranger.
She's exactly the kind of person this city's luxury forgets. Someone who deserves more than a 2-hour commute and a boss's contempt.
He pulled out his phone and called Tanaka, his longtime attorney. The words were quick, precise. I need a charitable trust, one that can hold real estate. Tanaka asked no questions. Within an hour, the framework for the Kosuke Charity Foundation began taking shape on his desk. That night, Kosuke unrolled his penthouse plans. He pictured Yuki's crayon drawings on those pristine walls, sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows.
I'll buy it in cash and donate it. The first residents will be the 2 who never asked for anything.
He folded the plans away. Mana would know nothing until it was done. This one promise would stay sealed behind his ribs. Risa sat at her terminal long after the showroom closed, crafting a report that would poison Mana's file.
A single late filing, a forged note from a client, that's all it takes to bury her.
The next morning, a manager slid an official warning across the desk. Mana's hands trembled as she read the false accusations.
Late filing? I triple-checked every document. This is Risa's doing.
When Kosuke heard her voice crack over the phone, he didn't need details. He already knew.
I believe you, Mana. Something isn't right. Don't let them push you out.
That evening, Kosuke marched into Sato's office, fists clenched, but voice controlled.
Risa fabricated a report against Mana. She's still terrorizing people under your nose.
I've seen the filing. Without proof of fraud, my hands are tied. I'm already watching her, Sensei.
Kosuke left, the towers above him holding no answers. The time for quiet charity was slipping away. The next morning, Kosuke sat in a sleek boardroom across from his attorney Tanaka, a cashier's check for 600 million yen already signed.
The trust is structured, Sensei. Once you sign, the deed transfers to the foundation under the terms we designed.
Kosuke pressed his architectural stamp onto the document, the familiar red ink now sealing a promise no one else yet knew. An hour later, the glass doors of Azabu Crest residences slid open, and Kosuke walked in with Tanaka at his side.
What are you doing here? If you think you can threaten me again, I'll call security for real this time.
I'm here to purchase the penthouse, in full today. So please, prepare the paperwork, unless you'd rather lose the sale.
The cashier's check landed on the marble desktop with the crisp authority of someone who owned the entire skyline.
The standard Azabu Crest sales contract, please. My client is prepared to pay the full listed price immediately.
He has the money? I'm being forced to serve the very man I threw out.
The stamp left a fresh red mark. The real contract, however, was still invisible. A charity clause, Kosuke kept folded inside his chest.
And this addendum states the penthouse shall be immediately donated to the Kosuke Charity Foundation for displaced single mothers.
Charity, if this goes through, I lose the entire commission. My bonus, everything. This is irregular. I can't process a sale with hidden conditions. I need to call the head office.
The terms are in the contract, Risa. I'm buying at full price. You have no grounds to refuse. Just do your job.
At that moment, the heavy lobby door swung open and Sato strode in, his expression already dark with fresh anger.
I heard raised voices. Risa, why isn't Sensei's purchase final? Every contract in this building waits on his goodwill.
Sato-sama, the contract includes a charity donation clause. It voids my commission. Surely you can't approve this abuse.
This is exactly the kind of transaction this building was meant to inspire. Complete the paperwork. Now.
Risa's hand shook so badly the ink smeared as she signed. Her commission and her pride dried up in a single stroke. The penthouse deed passed to the foundation. Kosuke rose, nodded to Sato, and left Risa drowning in the silence of her own loss. The next morning, Sato summoned Risa to his office.
You placed this company at risk with your arrogance. You were on probation for 6 months.
Probation. And all because of that scruffy architect and his timid little helper. Just wait. I'll find a way to ruin her. That charity won't save her.
That same afternoon, Kosuke dialed the foundation he'd just funded.
Her name is Mana. She's a single mother who commutes 4 hours a day. She needs this more than anyone.
The director opened a new file instantly, Mana's application, flagged for expedited review.
No. If she gets that penthouse, I'm finished. I have to stop this before it starts.
Behind her locked door, Risa began typing a new false report, this time aimed at the charity fund itself. Kosuke set his phone aside, satisfied. He didn't see the shadow already reaching for his gift. The charity letter had arrived that morning by evening. Kosuke was at her tiny table, the application spread before them.
This section asks for your housing history. Don't overthink it. I'll help with every line.
I still can't believe I was chosen. Someone out there saw something in me.
He didn't answer. The truth behind her selection was still locked in his chest. 2 floors away, Risa's monitor glowed with the foundation's candidate list. She read one name and spat.
Kosuke thinks he can give charity to my subordinates? I'll show him what a real loss feels like.
She pulled bank records from a dummy corporation, crafting an income that would disqualify a pauper. At dawn, she slipped the forged dossier into the charity's intake slot, a silent bomb. The envelope landed among the morning mail, its lies waiting to be believed. Kosuke walked home through the sleeping city, unaware that the hardest battle was about to begin. The charity committee opened the morning's submissions. One dossier made them pause, bank statements showing an income that didn't belong to a single mother. That afternoon, Mana answered the phone in the showroom hallway. The voice on the other end was polite but final.
Disqualified? On what grounds? That doesn't make any sense.
Kosuke found her an hour later in her apartment, the disqualification letter shaking in her hands.
They said I submitted false income statements, but I didn't. Every number was true.
This has Risa written all over it. She's crossed from harassment into fraud.
That night, Kosuke spread the documents across Tanaka's desk. Every false statement only sharpened his resolve.
These are professional forgeries, Sensei. Untangling them will require time and pressure. Are you prepared for the mess?
I've never been more prepared. Mana deserves the truth, even if I have to drag it into the light myself.
He stepped into the night. The city's towers still glowing, now symbols of a promise he intended to keep, no matter the cost. By noon the next day, Kosuke had obtained the security footage from the charity building, grainy but damning.
That's her. The hour, the disguise, everything matches the submission timestamp.
An hour later, Risa's heels clicked across the parking garage. Kosuke stepped from the shadows with a folder in hand.
You forged financials. slipped them to the charity, and tried to sink a single mother. I have the proof.
That footage doesn't mean anything. I was just inspecting the building. You can't prove forgery.
The bank records you used are linked to a shell company your family owns. Sato already has a copy.
Before she could answer, Kosuke turned and headed for Sato's office. The time for private warnings was over.
I have the file, Sensei. Forging charity documents is a criminal offense. I assure you the board will act.
By evening, Kosuke stood before the charity committee. The footage and financial trail laid bare on the table.
We misjudged. Mana's file will be reinstated immediately. As for the perpetrator, we will press charges.
The next morning, the board's decision came swift as a blade. Risa stood before Sato for the last time.
Effective immediately. Your employment is terminated for gross misconduct. Security will escort you out.
2 guards flanked her as she walked the marble floor she once ruled. Every co-worker's eyes a verdict.
Everything, all those years, destroyed by a single cup of tea.
An hour later, Mana's phone rang in her apartment. The charity director's voice was gentle.
The false documents have been identified and the perpetrator dealt with. Your application is back on track.
I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you so much.
She set the phone down and let herself cry, the first tears of relief in months.
Someone fought for me. Someone believed in me enough to prove the truth. But who?
The answer stayed hidden in a Roppongi office where Kosuke received the news with a quiet nod. But hope, for the first time, felt real. The next evening, Mana stood outside Kosuke's office, the glow of the city's towers reflected in the glass behind her.
Mana? Come in. What brings you all the way to Roppongi?
The charity director told me everything. It was you, wasn't it? You bought the penthouse. You saved my application.
I just made a call. The foundation does the work. I only pointed them in the right direction.
Why? After the way my boss treated you, why would you go this far for someone you barely know?
Because you gave me tea when I was nothing in that showroom. You didn't know who I was, and you were still kind.
She closed the distance before he could say more, arms wrapping around him in a trembling embrace.
Tell her it's more than that. Tell her now. But if I do, and she doesn't feel the same.
He let her go gently, stepping back before his heart could betray his silence. They sat and talked until the city lights blinked on. 2 people who had saved each other without quite knowing how. 1 year slipped by like water through the tower's reflections.
Kosuke-ni, you fix everything. Now fix my doll's arm.
Kosuke knelt to Yuki's eye level, carefully mending the plastic limb as if it were blueprints.
He's here every evening. It feels like home, but he hasn't said a word about us. Maybe he doesn't feel it.
He glanced up and caught Mana's gaze. For a heartbeat, something unspoken passed between them. Then he quickly returned to Yuki's homework.
You're always fixing something. Sometimes I think you're trying to fix me too.
I just want Yuki to have a good home.
And what about you? Do you have a good home?
He didn't answer. His hand stilled on the wrench, eyes lost in the distance. The question hung between them, unanswered. For now, the tea was enough. But it wouldn't be forever. Backstage, Kosuke adjusted his bow tie for the 3rd time, the small velvet box in his pocket pressing against his heart.
This award is for the charity, but the words I'll say, they're for her.
When his name echoed through the hall, he walked into the blinding lights. In the front row, Sato's stoic mask broke into wild applause, pride spilling over.
I built towers for a living, but I didn't understand what a home was until I met a woman who offered tea to a stranger. And a little girl whose crayon drawings showed me what walls should hold. This award belongs to them.
In the 3rd row, Mana's hand flew to her mouth. Beside her, Yuki tugged her sleeve, whispering, "Is that Kosuke-ni talking about us?"
Mana, you gave me more than tea that day. You gave me a reason to build. Will you marry me?
A perfect silence stretched, and then Mana nodded, tears streaming, her voice breaking across the hall. Yes, Yuki jumped up. Mama said yes. Did you hear, Kosuke ni? Yes. The hall erupted into a storm of cheers, Sato and Tanaka and the charity director all on their feet. Kosuke closed the ring box, but his smile said everything. The blueprint was finally complete. In a cramped apartment across the city, the same broadcast flickered on a cheap television.
That's the architecture award. Why does he keep showing up everywhere?
She leaned closer, then froze as the man she humiliated spoke of a single mother and a child.
He's proposing to Mana? That useless assistant gets the penthouse and a husband? No, they can't have this. After everything I did...
The remote flew from her hand, shattering against the screen into a spiderweb of cracks, the image of the embracing couple distorting into a fractured nightmare. Hours later, in a dingy bar, Risa stared into a glass as empty as the life she'd savaged.
Everything I built, gone. I have nothing left. Not even a reason to wake up tomorrow.
The bartender wiped the counter, deliberately avoiding her hollow eyes. In the bar's mirror, her reflection was just another lonely shadow, the city's lights granting her no mercy, only silence. 2 months later, in a small chapel filled with cherry blossoms, the only guests were the ones who had witnessed their journey. Yuki walked down the aisle, her pastel yellow ponytail bouncing as she threw petals with giggling delight. At the altar, Kosuke took Mana's hands. A tear traced her cheek as he whispered, "I promised you a home, now I get to be yours."
I never understood what I was building until you and Yuki showed me.
And you gave me more than a home. You gave me a reason to believe in people again.
Rings slipped onto fingers, and with a shared breath, they were sealed. As they shared their first kiss as a family, Sato wiped his glasses, Tanaka pretended to look away, and the charity director smiled with quiet satisfaction. The group photo captured them framed by sunlight, 3 people who had become a family under the same skyline that once judged them.
Mama, does this mean Kosuke-ni is my Kosuke Papa now?
Kosuke knelt to her level and nodded. Yuki threw her arms around his neck, and the chapel filled with laughter. The hallway now bore a brass plaque, Kosuke Charity Foundation. Below it, Yuki's crayon drawing of a family. At the window, Kosuke and Mana watched the 3 towers catch the final light, their reflections a single silhouette.
I once thought homes were just walls, but he taught me they're the people inside. Papa, did you really build all those towers?
I did, but your drawing is worth more than any of them.
Outside, the towers glowed warm against the evening, his legacy, now their horizon. On the wall, the architectural stamp remained, framed next to a child's masterpiece. On the balcony, Mana leaned into Kosuke. Yuki squeezed between them, her small hand in each of theirs. Their hands, now bearing simple gold bands, rested intertwined on the railing. The city lights flickered on, and under the skyline a home was finally complete. 2 simple gold bands, now inseparable as the hands that wore them. On the wall, the architectural stamp hung beside a yellow crayon sun. One had built the skyline, the other had built the heart inside it. Together, they were the blueprint of a family. Outside, the towers stood silent, witnesses to the architect who finally learned what they were for. Yuki's drawing showed a house with 3 stick figures and a red stamp in the corner. Kosuke's hand tightened around Mana's, the ring warm against his skin. He had built the tallest towers, but this was his greatest work. They watched the skyline fade into night, their future glowing ahead. Under the stamp and the drawing, a home held its breath, content, complete, and unbreakable. And so the skyline held its breath, too, knowing the story beneath its towers was complete. The family on the balcony, a father, a mother, a daughter, watched the same sunrise that once seemed so distant. The framed stamp and the crayon sun, 2 symbols of a life built not on concrete alone, but on something stronger. Kosuke's hand found Mana's again, a silent promise renewed each morning. Yuki's laughter echoed above the waking city, a melody that no blueprint could have drawn. The three towers stood tall, no longer just steel and glass, now monuments to the home they sheltered. And in that penthouse, far above the noise, a story that began with mockery ended with one immutable truth. Home is not a price tag, it is not a zip code, it is the people who stay. The rings caught the light, the stamp endured, and the drawing still held its magic. For the architect who once only saw structures, the greatest tower of all was the one he never built, only loved. And that, perhaps, is the truest blueprint of all.